serious American composer is expected to measure up against the best works of the best composers of the last 300 or 400 years of all of Europe. This is a pretty high standard to measure against. So in a sense, the serious American composer is competing against the highest best that all of Western Europe has produced.
Roy Harris often said he was called upon by destiny to write American music into classical music. It would seem a man who grew up with the West and who felt the kinship to the land would be the natural choice. Aaron Copland and former pupil William Schumann comment on elements of Harris's style.
It made a kind of fresh impression, I think, on an audience, as if, well, this fellow's not the conventional new young composer. He's got his own thing to say, and he's saying it in his own way. And we connected it with the Far West. It had that kind of Western, cowboyish, I might almost say, quality, which would not have been the same if he had grown up in New York or Brooklyn the way I did.
It's always been interesting to me to remember that Copland was really a city boy who has spent much of his life writing cowboy music, wide open spaces music, Americana sound, whereas Roy Harris was a real cowboy and was dealing most of his greatest music is all very abstract and very, certainly not urbane, but has very little to do with cowboys or with the wide open spaces of America.
All these references to Harris as an American composer further underscore the irony of the events surrounding the Fifth Symphony. Koussevitzky commissioned, then premiered the work with the Boston Symphony in February of 1943. Though it was dedicated to the valor of the Russian people, there was nothing intrinsically Russian about it. Roy Harris had written over half of it before the dedication took place. Though it was received well in Boston and broadcast round the world in shortwave, there was an absence of performances after that. Though he rescored it for smaller orchestra in hopes of making it easier to perform, there were still no takers. The real tragedy for Harris and the Fifth was still ahead. Joanna Harris recalls the events which turned their family's life into a nightmare.
When Roy Harris was writing his Fifth Symphony at 4 o'clock in the morning, which was his work time, it was indeed during a war period, and we received a cablegram from Shostakovich, Kabalevsky, Khachaturian, and Krennikov. Could you send us some word of cheer at this time? And indeed, at that time, we were allies. And Roy decided that he would dedicate his Fifth Symphony to the Russians. Koussevitzky performed it. Now, when the dedication got bruited about, Joe McCarthy latched onto it, and we awakened one day in Pittsburgh. We were on a Mellon grant there to do research in music, and the press came across front page, Roy Harris is a pinko prof. What ensued was 1 year of absolutely atrocious horror for the whole family, during which time Roy said more than once, if anyone is an American, I am. Well, we fought that one through. There was not an ounce of truth in it, and as a wonderful sequel to the Pinko Prof headline was a 5-column cartoon of Roy walking off with his Fifth Symphony very proudly.
Though Koussevitzky, Joanna Harris, and some of the best composers in America felt the Fifth Symphony far superior to the Third, it never received the acclaim he felt it deserved. Harris offered an explanation for this. If we are realistic, we must admit that chance circumstances and commercial manipulation play a much greater part in the development of our success than does the quality or quantity of our output. To end this portion of the program, we feature Roy Harris's Eighth Symphony, which has never before been placed in record. This performance is the premiere of the work, which was conducted by Enrique Jorda with the San Francisco Symphony in 1962.